I am known as the First Lady of Civil Rights. I am the mother of the freedom movement. I am Rosa Parks. I'm going to tell you my story of how I was involved in the civil rights movement. But first, let me tell you a little about myself. I was born on February 4th, 1913 in Tuskegee, Alabama. I am of African American, Cherokee Creek, and Scottish-Irish descent. I have a brother named Sylvester. My mother's name is Leona Edwards, and my father's name was James McCauley. I got married when I was 19 years old to a barber named Raymond Parks. I was a member of the African American Methodist Episcopal Church. I attended the Alabama State Teachers College for Negroes and also the Highlander Folk School in Tennessee. I was also secretary for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, also known as the NAACP. During the Civil Rights Movement, it was my actions of civil disobedience that sparked a protest campaign known as the Montgomery Bus Boycott. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where my story begins. It all started in 1955 when, after a day at work at the Montgomery Fair department store, I boarded the Cleveland Avenue bus at around 6 p.m. on Thursday, December 1st in downtown. I paid my fare and sat down on this empty seat in the first row of the back seats reserved for blacks in the colored section, which is near the middle of the bus and directly behind the 10 seats reserved for white passengers. At first, I did not notice that the bus driver, James Blake, was the same guy who left me in the rain the other day. I even remember when I was going to elementary school, the buses only took white students to their schools and black students were required to walk to theirs. I would see the bus pass every day, but to me, that was a way of life. We had no choice but to accept what was custom. The bus was among the first ways I realized that there was a black world and a white world. So when the bus reached the third stop in front of the Empire Theater and several white passengers boarded, all the white-only seats were filled up. You see, in 1900, before I was born, Montgomery had passed a city ordinance for the purpose of segregating passengers by race. Conductors were given the power to assign seats to accomplish that purpose. However, over time and by custom, Montgomery bus drivers had adopted the practice of requiring black riders to move whenever there were no white-only seats left. So back to my story. When that white driver stepped back toward us, when he waved his hand and ordered us up and out of our seats, I felt a determination to cover my body like a quilt on a winter night. So Blake said, "Y'all better make it light on yourselves and let me have those seats." So the driver wanted us to stand up, the four of us. We didn't move at first. Then again he says, "Let me have these seats." The other three people moved out of their seats, but I didn't. The black man sitting next to me moved. I did too, to the window seat. When he saw me still sitting, he asked me if I was going to stand up, and I said, "No, I am not." So then he says, "Well, if you don't stand up, I'm going to have to call the police and have you arrested." And I said, "You may do that." And that is when they took my tail to jail for defying racial segregation laws, also known as the Jim Crow laws back in the day. And here you can see my mugshot. I was not afraid. You see, people always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not tired physically, nor was I more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. And I was not old, by the way. Although some people have an image of me being old then, I was 42. So no, the only tired I was tired of giving in. I was tired of being pushed around. I remember when the officer took me away, and I remember asking him, "Why do you push us around?" And the officer responded with this, "I do not know, but the law's the law, and you are under arrest." I later said, I only knew that it was the very last time that I would ever write in humiliation of this kind. On the night of my arrest, Joanne Robinson, head of the Women's Political Council, printed and circulated a flyer throughout the Montgomery's black community. It says, "Another woman has been arrested and thrown in jail because she refused to get up out of her seat on the bus for a white person to sit down. It is the second time since the Claudette Colvin case that a Negro woman has been arrested for the same thing. This has to stop. Negroes have rights too, for if Negroes did not ride the buses, they could not operate. 3/4 of the riders are Negro, yet we are arrested or have to stand over empty seats. If we do not do something to stop these arrests, they will continue. The next time it may be you, or your daughter, or mother. This woman's case will come up on Monday. We are, therefore, asking every Negro to stay off the buses Monday in protest of the arrest and trial. Do not ride the buses to work, to town, to school, or anywhere on Monday. You can't afford to stay out of school for one day if you have no other way to go except by bus. You can also afford to stay out of town for one day. If you work, take a cab or walk. But please, children and grown-ups, do not ride the buses at all on Monday. Please stay off all buses on Monday. The boycott proved to be extremely effective, with enough riders lost to the city transit system to cause serious economic distress. Instead of riding buses, boycotters organized a system of carpools with car owners volunteering their vehicles or themselves to drive people to various destinations. Across the nation, black churches raised money to support the boycott and collected new and slightly used shoes to replace the tattered footwear of Montgomery's black citizens, many of whom walked everywhere rather than ride the buses and submit to the Jim Crow laws. E.D. Nixon and Clifford Durr bailed me out of jail that evening on December 2nd. 4 days later, I was tried charges of disorderly conduct and violating a local ordinance. The trial lasted 30 minutes. I was found guilty and fined $10 plus $4 in court costs. I did not want to be mistreated. I did not want to be deprived of a seat that I had paid for. It was just time that there was opportunity for me to take a stand to the way I felt about being treated in that manner. I had not planned to get arrested. I had plenty to do without having to end up in jail. But when I had to face that decision, I did not hesitate to do so because I felt that we had endured that too long. The more we gave in, the more we complied with that kind of treatment, the more oppressive it became. Pressure was increasing across the nation, and on June 4, 1956, the Federal District Court ruled that Alabama's racial segregation laws for buses were unconstitutional. However, at the time, an appeal kept the segregation intact, and the boycott continued. But finally, on November 13, 1956, the Supreme Court upheld the District Court's ruling. This victory allowed black bus passengers to sit anywhere they wanted, and the boycott officially ended on December 20, 1956. The Montgomery bus boycott protest lasted 381 days. The bus boycott echoed throughout the United States and stimulated the national civil rights movement. Over the years, I have learned that when one's mind is made up, this diminishes fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear. And to close my story, I want you all to know that my individual desires were to be free, and I would like to be remembered as a person who wanted to be free, so that other people would also be free. Thank you.